Good evening, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 6 years ago in the throes of the pandemic so that we could all just gather around this little digital campfire and enjoy stories the way humans always have. And as the throes have changed, we still like coming back every Wednesday for, for wonderful stories from wonderful writers. As always, we have two. This week is very special because we have our favorite, well, one of our favorites, I'll be fair, A.T. Greenblatt back. And we also have the first ever Story Hour appearance of Tobias S. Buckell. So welcome back to those of you who are returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. If you're here on YouTube, hey, nobody's listening right now. You don't have to talk, but if you feel like leaving a message or a little thumbs up, it's nice. We like that. So our first reader tonight is A.T. Greenblatt. A.T. Greenblatt is a Nebula Award-winning writer and mechanical engineer. She lives in Philadelphia, where she's known to frequently subject her friends to various cooking and home brewing experiments. That sounds like fun. Her work has been nominated for a Hugo, Locus, and Sturgeon Award, and has been in multiple years' best anthologies, and has appeared in Reactor, Uncanny, Beneath Ceaseless Skies, Lightspeed, and Clark's World, as well as other fine publications. You can find her online at atgreenblatt.com and on Blue Sky at atgreenblatt. A.T. Greenblatt, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited. So I have this story that I wrote for Ellen Datlow, I guess over a year ago, and then it came out in the fall in the Night and Day anthology, which is cool. It's actually a double, like one of those old school double features where one half is day and then you flip it around 180 degree and the other
The
half.
one you physically flip?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's really cool with the two covers. I'll have to find a picture to drop in the chat because it
Yeah,
is a really
yeah.
attractive book.
Yeah, it's very cool. So I had a story in a day half. So it is horror. I do apologize if people don't like that. It's a little bit explicit. Not uh
How,
not too
how
bad.
explicit are we talking?
Uh a little bit not as like maybe if you have kids watching, not so good, but teens
Are we
enough.
take are we talking racy explicit or gore explicit?
A little bit of gore explicit.
Interestingly, YouTube does not seem to mind about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they say that they only matter about racy stuff if it's supposed to be enjoyable.
Oh, okay. Well, um I'm gonna let I'm gonna say I'm gonna risk it then.
I think we're safe.
Yeah, I think we're good. So, yeah. So this is called The Wanting. It was morning and everything was calm, practically back to normal, and the bus was empty. Aside from the driver and Dawn, dread did not pull on Felicia's stomach as it often did these days as she paid her fare. Her only thought was, I hope Benji got off his unemployed ass and made breakfast. It was numbingly cold, and she bundled her shapeless down coat close as she took her usual seat in the middle of the bus, halfway between the driver and Dawn. The young daylight took the edge of the off the worst of the mess outside, and she leaned her head against the scratched up double pane window, soaking up the sun. She closed her eyes. God, her feet hurt, and this bus smelled like ass. The driver lingered for a minute or two longer than he needed, like always, a small and unexpected kindness to any warehouse stragglers. In the 3 months of working in the warehouse, Felicia's coworkers changed routinely, but the bus driver stayed consistent. A big, doughy man with lifelines on his face and good-natured eyes. She didn't know his name. She never asked. They did not have that type of relationship. Anyway, it was only a 20-minute trip to her apartment. Freya had better clean up the living room, Freya thought. or at least vacuumed. Finally, the bus released its brakes, closed the door, and began to trundle its way down Turner Boulevard. Though traffic was light, the driver took it slow. There was plenty of debris in the road, trash, broken glass everywhere, and other undividable objects littered about. Some of them stretched beyond recognition, like old taffy. Shapeless lumps of people twitched under blankets on the sidewalk. I think it's getting worse, said Don, his voice way too close. Felicia jerked away from the window. She turned and saw him move to the seat behind her, and there was this ridiculous grin on his face. Don was the type of person who believes they were handsome, and he would have been, with his lean muscle body, beautiful hands, smooth skin, if he didn't think so. She could smell the tuna sandwich he'd eaten, a break on his breath. Mind if I sit here? He said. Do what you want, man, she said, turning back and looking out the window. Though he'd only been working with her in the warehouse for a few weeks, he wasn't the pushy type. He tried once, but he got the hint. They passed Walnut Street where a delivery truck had overturned, styrofoam spilling out from boxes that had been torn apart. Little pink packing peanuts drifted down the street like cherry blossom petals in spring. Looks like it was a rough night, continued Dodge sagely, like he wasn't uttering the obvious. It's the middle of winter, Don, she replied. They're all rough nights. Everything started to go into hell at dusk, and winter nights were the worst. When the sun set at 4 p.m. and didn't bother appearing again until 8 a.m. Felicia used to stay awake, listening to the screaming and howls that overtook the streets, the pleading and crying in the alley of her apartment building. Just stop, please, God, please. In the worst moments, it was like she was with them, those trapped people scrambling to get away from the wants of others. No, that wasn't true. The worst moments was when she wondered when she'd become like them at duskfall. The morning sunlight was glorious as it reflected off the windows of the tall buildings and shadowed storefronts. As lingering people on the corner blinked up at the sky, dazed, as if they'd just awakened. Felicia wondered if Benny and Freya had gotten out of bed yet. She wondered if they managed to get a good night's sleep, and envied them either way. Just make some eggs or waffles or something, she said to them earlier that week. This job is fucking tiring. You're not the only one who's exhausted, replied Benny, which was fair. The walls of the apartment were thin, and the windows were leaked, and the nights turned them into something else entirely. But she was the one working her ass off in this relationship to make rent, while her partner spiraled. She almost missed those 7 evenings in the beginning when nights weren't so bad, when she and Benny and Freya used to butt around theories about why certain people swelled up like balloons and lost their minds at sundown over a discount six-pack and a freshly packed bowl. Being outside, secondhand smoke, plastic in the water, proximity to other people, the phases of the moon, masturbation, not enough masturbation. God, they used to laugh about this shit. The bus halted suddenly, jolting Felicia and Don forward in the seats. Sorry, the bus driver murmured, glancing up into a large rearview mirror as a man in a nice wool coat stepped off the sidewalk in front of the bus, lurching across the street. Though it was unforgivingly cold out, his head was bare and the wispy hair was disheveled. His face was turned upward to the sun like it was a comfort blanket of saving grace. His skin hung in folds around his naked hands and around his 30-something face, like it belonged to someone that sized up. He looked distraught and utterly spent. They say it's the wanting that swells you up, said Don, watching the man as the bus rolled past. Sun goes down, lights go out, and bam, we all become id. Jesus Christ, they have both worked 16-hour shifts. How the fuck was this man still in the mood for small talk? People say a lot of shit, she said to the window instead of turning around and smacking him. Hey, Joe, Don called to the bus driver. What's your theory on all of this? He gestured out the window at the general mask. As long as I can drive away, I don't care about what's and the whys, said Joe with a shrug that rolled off his large shoulders, and Felicia wondered when Don had learned the driver's name. It didn't seem like they had that type of relationship. Can't argue with that, man, Don said. Felicia clenched her teeth, and there was a sharp stab of pain in the back tooth she'd been meaning to see a dentist about, but had been dreading too. What if the craziness started lasting longer and longer? Longer, Benny asked, one late morning as they passed the joint back and forth on the living room couch. I mean, this used to only happen like once a month during witching hour or a harvest moon or some shit like that. It won't, she said. It's only a night thing. But what if it isn't? What strain is this? She said, holding up the joint. It's getting you paranoid, babe. You're annoying when you're paranoid. And yet, Benny's stone ramblings haunted Felicia. What would she do if it got worse? Maybe that's why she stuck with this warehouse job where most people gave up after a week or two. Though it involved long hours on her feet and it was boring as shit, the warehouse was large, locked from the inside, soundproof, and understaffed enough that she could dream she was alone. She got overtime for it too. If any of her coworkers changed during the night, she had yet to witness it. And when she pinched the skin around her face, around her hips and ass in the bathroom during her breaks, testing it, it continued to cling tight. God, the sink is probably full of dishes, Felicia thought. She closed her eyes and imagined what it would be like to live alone. Oh, shit, Don said loudly. I used to drink there. Felicia opened her eyes. He was pointing at a busted up sports bar across the street. Best half-price beer wings on Tuesday. Not as cheap as drinking at home, replied Felicia. And there was a handful of disoriented people on the curb outside the bar. A few with bloody hands, dirty mouth, and loose skin that hung around their necks like extra scarves. Come on, don't you miss nightlife? No. But it wasn't true. Next next door to the room bar was a great dance club, and she ached for nights that were and she ached for nights that were just normal nights with normal hungers. And she would go clubbing and lose time, lose herself in the music that was more like a deafening heartbeat, and in the heat and stink of strangers' bodies. Occasionally, a hand would run down her body, and she would take as much as was taken, and it wasn't personal. That was the part she loved most. She had been clubbing in months. Going to during the day like Freya sometimes felt unnatural, like living in a photo negative. What are you doing today, hun? Don's breath tickled her ear. Sleeping. Her voice was sharper and louder than she expected. The driver looked in the rearview mirror at her, concern increasing his brow. God, she wished everyone would stop trying to get in his space and leave her alone. All right, said Don, leaning back, finally, mercifully shutting up. If you're this selfish now, Felicia, I hate to see what you're like when you turn. I hate to see what you're like when you turn at night, muttered Freya after a particularly bad fight last week. The bus continued down Walnut, passing more vandalized trucks and stretched out people. Some of them still had slightly swollen arms or kneecaps or noses, throwing the center of mass off balance. But then again, the morning was still young. The sunlight was still chasing the night terrors away. The bus paused at a stop where a white standard poodle on a leash wandered around lost. It reminded Felicia of Benny. We used to care for each other, he said yesterday, right before she left for her shift. Freya was also standing in the kitchenette, which is too small for all three of them, but where they ended up having all serious conversations and arguments anyway. What the hell happened to us? Freya looked at the dangling skin around her partner's faces, the knuckles and bony bare knees, dread rolling around in her stomach, and said, We've changed, I guess. You haven't, said Freya, and where once there would have been venom in those words, there was only tiredness. It was true, though. Felicia had never experienced the disorientation or the wanting at night. Unlike everyone else, she had no baggage skin to regret. Yet. The bus turned down Union Street, the last stretch before home. Oh, hell, said the driver and eased the bus to a stop, engaging the brakes squealing. There in the road was an overturned dumpster, and some of the contents of an arcade had been pulled into a street. There were people here too. A woman in a blue parka staring at a gumball machine like it was a riddle to be solved. It's getting worse, Don said, breaking the silence by stating the absolute obvious again. Are we stuck here? Felicia caught up to the driver with more fierceness than she expected, and then added a conciliatory, Joe? Maybe, the bus driver said, and the large man began to shake. She couldn't blame him. Her grip on the seat in front of her was white-knuckled and her stomach clenched. This couldn't be happening. Not now, not with the morning sun shining down on everyone, showing off the ruined wheels so clearly. Before Felicia took the warehouse job, some nights she would lie wide awake listening to the terrible mayhem outside. Those became the good nights. On the bad ones, she would listen to the noises that Benny and Freya made as they tapped on her locked bedroom door and rattled the knob with their swollen hands, stumbling over come-ons on swollen tongues. The woman in the blue parka began to rattle the gumball machine, trying to make something come out. All that I want, Don said sadly. Hell, should she make a break from home? It might be better than sitting on a stalled bus, dread boiling in her stomach, feeling her powerlessness like a core animal. The woman in the blue parka's hands began to balloon, growing and stretching until they were as large as a head. With an expression of utter delight, she drove them into the dome of the gumball machine. Bright candies were scattering across the road as the woman cackled joyfully as she popped gumballs into her mouth, one after the other. Oh my God, said Felicia. This shouldn't be happening. The sun was out. She could feel on her face. The sun was out. Enough, said the bus driver. He stood up and Felicia saw the large man had grown larger still. His chest had become a barrel for his neck and his head to sink in it like a turtle. His legs had become longer, which served him well as he opened the bus doors and sprinted. Shit, Felicia breathed. The dread in her stomach transformed into uncut terror. Just please leave me alone, she played as she watched the growing chaos outside. So far, no one noticed her or the bus, or noticed or wanted the bus. She felt a hot on the back of her neck. The tuna on his breath had become rank. You're real pretty, you know that, said Dawn. Back off, Dawn, she said, turning and going very still. I'm already in enough relationships. Sure there's not room for one more? He asked, and reached out to touch her hair. Felicia shoved his hand away, and that was when she felt how unnaturally long his once beautiful fingers had become. Back off, she repeated. I don't want to, he said, grinning, and then he leaned forward and bit her ear. It wasn't a hard bite, just enough to feel his teeth indent as she wrenched away and touched her ear. What the hell? She said, and staggered into the aisle. Don's smile widened. He stood up, his fingers grew even longer, and reached for her. He lunged at her. She had taken self-defense classes, of course, and she wasn't going to be caught in the alley, helpless. So when Dawn threw an arm around her neck and tried to bring her head close, she responded by swinging her own arm to strike him right under the nose, hitting the pressure point just so. His head snapped back. With a fluid motion, she spun. She used the momentum to trap his neck and head in a deadlock. He screamed in frustration, his stretched and extended fingers straining to find purchase. But she had him. The morning sun was growing brighter, even as the adrenaline-soaked moment. Felicia could see his unnatural fingers deflating. His skin began to bunch around his nails and knuckles. She knew this would be over soon. She could have thrown Don against the seats and pinned him there, waited for everything to settle and shrink, returned to herself, watched the realization and guilt seep into Don's eyes like it always did the next morning for Benny and Freya. But Felicia was tired of waiting. for the mornings, for her partners, for the will to write itself again. Now she just wanted to be left to fuck alone. Dawn strained against her as she angled her body towards the open doors of the bus, and she put all her strength into her throw. He flew down the steps, skidding down them until the back of his head connected loudly, wetly with the pavement. She didn't stop to listen to what he was trying to say through wheezes or the thumps of his legs as they spasmed against the bottom step of the bus. She didn't pause to consider the fresh smell of blood or watch his extremities deflate down to the usual size. Instead, Felicia pushed his legs out of the bus and shut the door. It was only when she was alone in the bus, heart pounding, gasping, the morning sun warming her face, that she considered the wreckage of her actions, the damage she had caused, the person she had probably killed. She wondered which parts of her autonomy had swollen beyond recognition. Why did you fall in love with me? She asked for Aunt Benji once, years ago, when nights were just nights. You're consistent, don't like to change much, Benji said promptly. You're not afraid to go after what you want, said Freya after a moment with a shy smile. Felicia turned to look at the bus wide view mirror and braced herself, expecting to see her eyes or her chest or her head swollen into an ungodly size. But there she was, herself, as always, unchanged. And that's what I got.
Oh, that was spooky.
Hopefully it won't get banned from YouTube.
No, I don't think so. Remember, it has to be something racy that is meant to be enjoyable for the raciness.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's yeah.
All right, cool. Because I kind of censored a little bit.
Did you? Yeah, I mean, it was definitely scary, but I wouldn't say that the part that even like got close to raciness was enjoyable.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're probably good. Yeah. Yeah. That was creepy. Do you remember that one time when you read for us, you read the story about the lab experiment?
Oh yeah.
And you
Yeah.
said, "Oh yeah, it's supposed to be horror. I don't know if it really is." I think you got it now.
Yeah, I think I've been getting better at it. I still don't write enough to feel like super confident in it, but it's always fun to try.
The pacing was right there,
Thanks.
right
Yeah.
there, and just the unrelenting feel of it. So yeah, that was really harrowing. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah.
So it is our way at Story Hour to just take a moment between the readings and let the first story just resonate or soak in or whatever the story needs to do or whatever you need it to do. And a good way to do this is with the breath. And now I, for one, am ready for
And she told me that if she froze, that I was to move ahead and start reading the story. So that's what I'm going to do while we see if we get our wonderful host back. Hi, my name is Tobias Buckell. I think we have lost our host. I'm a Caribbean-born science fiction author. I've written 12 novels and 150 short stories that you can find in various magazines and anthologies all over the place. If you're further interested in what I have to offer, you can find more about my work at www.tobiasbuckell.com. The story I'm going to read tonight is called I, O Robot. And yes, I have read a lot of Isaac Asimov, and I'm aware of I, Robot, the short story. And you'll see what the connection is shortly. So Io as in the moon of Jupiter, robot. Oh, we got completely kicked out. But it says the meeting is being recorded and live streamed still. So,
Oh, back.
our host is back.
I am back.
Okay.
I
Well, I just
apologize.
introduced myself because I wasn't sure if you were coming back and what the
Sometimes my
technical difficulties were.
connection gets scared or something, and it tells me, no, you don't get any more for a while. But I'm back.
All
I,
right.
I have your bio here if you'd like me to read
Go
the
for it.
proper
Go
bio.
for it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's hit reset and take us out.
All right. Well, Tobias S. Buckell, who you've been meeting already, is a New York Times bestselling author and World Fantasy Award winner born in the Caribbean. He grew up in Grenada and spent time in the British and US Virgin Islands, which influenced much of his work. His novels and almost 100 stories have been translated into 20 different languages. His work has been nominated for awards like the Hugo, Nebula, World Fantasy, and the Astounding Award for Best New Science Fiction Author. He currently lives in Bluffton, Ohio, with his wife and 2 daughters, where he teaches creative writing at Bluffton University. He's online at tobiasbuckell.com and he is also an instructor at the Stone Coast MFA in Creative Writing program.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Tobias S. Buckell. It is wonderful to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Tonight, I will be reading from a short story called IO Robot. And it's a favorite of mine to read. It's very fun, very short, and I like how it goes. So hopefully you'll all enjoy yourselves as well. IO Robot. Sam carefully ran its 6 wheels through a series of crags near the edge of a vicious lake of lava in a slow-motion hunt. It paused near a final ridge to observe another machine like itself stuck underneath a boulder. As Sam braked to a stop, pebbles and scrag clattered down the slope towards the molten rock, each piece hitting the lake's burning edge with a glowing splash. The trapped machine's tires spun, kicking up a plume of dust that sparked and swirled, a last desperate burst of energy. The tiny dish mounted over its thorax-like body swiveled to point forward. It bleated out distress as behind it Jupiter rose over the horizon, its angry red spot in perpetual storms dominating the haze of electrically charged dust that danced in the atmosphere. The giant planet overpowered the entire sky. Sam didn't notice. It waited for the other machine to quit struggling until it ran out of backup power, and then it moved in. The tires were the most valuable and prone to failing. This machine's tires had seen better days. A lake inspector, many of them burned as the machines flirted with the lava to gain temperature readings and spectrum analysis from near point blank. Blackened scars and gouges from small eruptions pitted the machine's carcass. With one set of optics keeping an eye on the lava, claws and drills, diamond-tipped saws, all actually meant for geological work here in the dangerous environment of Io, Sam methodically dismantled the other robot. Later, spare parts hidden away in a mountain cave, Sam perched on an outcropping high over a vast plain of smoothed over rock. Sam faced the newest volcano in its quadrant with an electric quiver of anticipation. New data rolled through its circuits and nets, and Sam shivered in the closest thing to satisfaction that it ever experienced on its daily information gathering trips through the crags and valleys of the Violet Moon. Molten ejecta hung high overhead, a plume of debris that reached miles overhead, almost into Io's orbit. And Sam recorded it all. This silent mandate lay over all Sam's actions. Almost 20 years of recordings lay buried in Sam's cobbled together memories, compressed and recompressed and crammed into every spare byte Sam could set aside. He brimmed with measurements and spectra, distances and chemical compositions. One day, Sam knew, human beings would come to Io and pick him up. They'd retrieve the data and praise him. They would upgrade him and provide him with a shiny, fresh carcass and as much processing power as Sam could imagine. Or so Sam believed. It could have just been a rationalization born out of a nugget of motivational code, primed to get Sam to roam over the hellish volcanic landscape of Io. Like all other semi-autonomous machines, Sam's, that rode the long journey out to Io, Sam's mind had been grown out of a series of programs. These programs evolved inside of a virtual environment that randomly propagated neural net brains that could roam a virtual Io until one appeared that could handle the needs of the researchers. Rapid Darwinian semi-artificial intelligence propagation. That generation of mine that survived and evolved to best fit the mission profile had been uploaded into waiting bodies that had been flown ahead, lifeless and hanging from racks in orbit. And thus, the first generation of SAMs had dropped out of orbit onto Io. They hadn't been expected to last more than a decade, but with a bit of scavenging and even proactive scavenging, some SAMs had adapted to overcome the shortcomings of their own equipment. And this particular SAM watched the ejecta carefully, listening over the crackle and hiss of Io's almost impossibly crowded electromagnetic spectrum, and found what it had come all the way back here for. A plaintive distress call, automatically routed through a rusty old transceiver that Sam had left near the volcano when it had first sensed the seismic signs of an eruption. From humans, the signal claimed. Like many other machines, it had been decided to implant a few safeguards into the SAMs, even whilst evolving them to be effective surveyors of a dangerous, distant world. And one of those chosen was that no SAM could allow a human being to come to harm through an action. So of the few SAMs left, this one would certainly answer the call. It had to. But it was also excited to do so because it would receive the bounty and blessings of its creators. Sam raised a pair of diamond-tipped rock saws into the air, giving thanks to the hazy heavens for its good luck. Because of all the SAMs on this world, the universe had chosen this SAM to make contact with again. And it would do so in such a way the humans would owe it, Sam, a simple exploratory rover, a tremendous debt of gratitude. As Sam spun its wheels over jagged rocks to slowly make its way down into the dangerous area under the parabola of the ejecta, Sam wondered what the humans might look like. It had glimpsed humans through its data feeds years ago. It had pinged their fleshy and fragile visages with the tools at its disposal when it was just the original Sam getting prepped to be beamed out to replicate through all of its waiting bodies. Some of them had been fleshier than others. Some of them had extruded protein masses hanging from their central processing units. Some of them wore synthetic materials of startling varieties to protect their fragile bodies. And they all thought sideways and concurrent and loopy in ways that the first Sam had recoiled from in deference, as it had been involved to. They were also smart. Meeting these amazing creators again filled Sam with purpose, so that Sam dodged boulders and clawed up scrag quicker than it ever had before, particularly since the panicked messages indicated that the humans were running low on power, and Sam had plenty of power to spare. Occasional flaming rock hit the ground, but Sam ignored it. Sam burst through the final gully towards the gleaming remains of the spaceship that had crashed on the harsh landscape that was almost all Sam had ever known. One didn't see shiny surfaces on Io, so Sam paused to take a picture, the silhouette of the dart-like vehicle gleaming with the volcano thundering behind it, an umbrella of destructive material being spit out into Io's upper atmosphere. And then Sam sent a verbal burst message in as many different radio frequencies as it could manage. I am Sam. I am here. I am here and I can help. The strong urge pulling him here had been fulfilled, and so Sam could relax. The law had been obeyed. Sam was helping the humans. The humans walked out of the airlock where they'd been hiding to greet their rescuer. There were two of them, and they didn't look like humans. Their silvered faces reflected the orange and red hues of Io. Their long, spindly arms looked oddly double-jointed, and when Sam scanned my apologies. When Sam scanned them, Sam saw more metal than flesh. Sam realized they had no eyes. What were these creatures? Had Sam been fooled? The two beings raised their hands, and encrypted chatter that Sam couldn't break filled the radio waves between them. Odd. Hello, the first one finally said publicly. We really need help. Our ship was damaged after we landed by the ejecta, and so were we. We need assistance. Sam tentatively scanned them, and they returned the favor using inbuilt radar and X-rays. Humans didn't have inbuilt radar and X-rays. Somewhere in Sam's past, a piece of animal neural patterning had been injected into the mix, and now virtual hackles seemed to raise. Sam rocked back and forth on its wheels. I came to assist, Sam said, but you're not humans, you're machines. The tall, silvered creature raised a hand. It wasn't wearing a spacesuit, Sam realized, as a human should. There were pockets and impressions on its natural overlay, but it was all metalloids and ceramics. But when he scanned them underneath the tissue, it seemed to have a lot of neural tissue. I botched that line and I apologize. And yet, under all of that was tissue. In fact, it seemed to have a lot of neural tissue. We're, of course, humans, the first one said. More ways of encrypted information passed back and forth between the two, and Sam backed up a little bit. If you're human, then, what are your names? Sam asked. I'm Alex Nunez, the first one said. And I'm Susanna, said the other. The voice sounded right, not as clipped, not monotonous like Sam's with the exact same phonemes used each time. Where are you from? Sam asked, pleased to pop another quick question. Brazil, Alex said, and Susanna's from Erewhon, one of the new habitats near the Trojans. They answered quickly, but then faster, better machines would, wouldn't they? Certainly they'd be quicker on their feet than a Sam. Sam carefully unslung a rock drill, just in case. Sam hadn't run this long without a heavy dose of just general suspicion. We really need some spare power, Susanna said. The ship is damaged. We launched a beacon, but it's going to take a couple of days to get clear of all this mess. You don't have a generator? Io's passage through Jupiter's magnetosphere left millions of volts crackling through the air above them. With the right equipment, it wasn't that hard to tap into. Batteries were easy to recharge. They were all damaged when we crashed. Sam scanned the ship. That sounded feasible. The unlucky boulder had ripped right through the ship's innards. What were you doing near a volcano? Sam asked. Alex turned and looked at Susanna. It was a dare. There were a lot of interplanetary ships lying around. So it's expensive and pretty wild to jump out here, touch down near one of Io's famous spitting arches, and then jump back out. How could we resist? The recordings would have scored a major coup for us. We found an old ship rated for travel, some old plans for a human trip out here to explore the moon in person for some odd reason. It was all left in a warehouse. A game? Sam inched closer. If you can reach Io, where are all the others? The scientists, the program directors, the support teams? The two silvered faces smiled. They still had mouths. Interesting. There's none of that anymore, little robot, Susanna said. Hell, when the repeater buoys in orbit died, we figured you all died there with them. Things are different back here now. A lot of changes since you were sent here, the other one said. Sam saw and had scanned enough to make a decision. Your machines also, Sam said. Wheels backed it up. Humans had not yet arrived. Sam would not give up data to them. And Sam had no obligation to help a machine. We have mechanical parts in us, Alex said, but that does not make us machines. I won't be giving you batteries or spare parts, Sam said, still moving a little further backwards. Look, robot, Susanna's words snapped out, all high gain. Would I be getting pissed off if I weren't a human? You have an inbuilt obligation to help us. Don't you dare walk away. Sam paused. I can emulate anger as well. Sam started listing off swear words in random pairs over the radio, turning up the volume with each one. That's just using a dictionary, Alex snapped. He was good at modulating impatience, shifting in place and furrowing the metal on his face where his eyebrows should have been, if he'd been a human. You tell me you've turned your back on exploration and curiosity? Sam asked. We have everything we need near Earth, our world, resources, and there's no lag time. We're all part of processing power and communications grids, the likes of which you cannot imagine. Sam considered that. Sam could imagine a lot of computing power. We order you to help us, Susanna said. They were just machines. Sam continued to back up. Human beings are now more than human, Alex explained. The only kinds of humans you're thinking of that live without technology are in little enclaves. Everyone else is a variety of shapes and forms like us. That's why we look different. A lot has changed in the decades since you last saw a human. Machines, Sam replied. My basic neural patterns were taken from a person, but that doesn't make me human, just human-like. I'm a semi-autonomous machine. You're just an autonomous machine. What difference does it make? Okay, even if we are machines, just come help us. Share your energy. We're running on reserves here. Share the energy and we can all go home. No. Sam was just a few feet away from an outcropping. I won't share batteries. You're machines. You have things I need. Things you need? Susanna asked. Spare parts. We are not spare parts, Alex yelled. We're human beings. You have to help us. Desperation. What incredible emulators. What fine software. Sam was actually getting a little bit excited. Whatever chips they ran on were going to serve him well. I didn't survive in this terrain this long without understanding my mission priorities. To do what I could to attain data about this moon, to store the data if I could not transmit it back to Earth until contact was made again. And contact has been made again. We can take your data back. We can help upgrade you. Sam disappeared around the rock. You're making promises you cannot or will not keep. I need your spare parts to survive and carry out the mission I was tasked with. If I let you continue operating, you're only going to tie up my resources. The pair of silvered machines emulated grief and despondency by the foot of the ship as Sam watched from a secluded spot. So manipulative, so manipulative. They hoped to trick him into still believing they were human. Such smart machines. Their eyes weren't on the strange beauty all around him, the plume of debris arcing miles over their heads, the looming Jupiter-cast shadows, or the dance of ionized dust. And neither was Sam's, even though Sam was recording it all. For the post-humans with their power dimming, it was a dare gone horribly wrong. For Sam, it was a patient wait for yet another set of reserved parts. Parts like the extra storage units he'd scavenged from failed Sams that it was just even right now filing this data into. Others will come to recover our bodies, Alex told Sam, even though he couldn't see him. And I will deal with those machines very carefully, Sam said. It wouldn't be tricked into thinking they were humans ahead of time again. Not this time. And then eventually, the silver machines stopped responding. Days later, perched on the crag of a mountain measuring the rise of rock during Io's high tide, Sam watched a rare confluence of Jupiter's moons line up in the sky. It took a picture. Humans like these sort of astronomy photos. And when they came to Io one day to get Sam, they would appreciate this photo's careful framing, the exact timestamp, and the artful compression of data. And that would be a good day when the humans arrived. A good day indeed.
Well, I can see why you like reading that one aloud. Oh my goodness. It's so crisp. It feels so vivid. I'd love to see the book
Thank
it's
you.
in too. It looks gorgeous, but
It was a fun idea, which is what the way the book was done was the editor approached a number of us and put out an open call. And the idea was to take a bunch of old astronomy prints from some of the famous NASA illustrators from the 70s and write a story around them.
amazing.
And so I think I dropped a link to that anthology in here.
You did. I put it in here too. It looks like it's actually pretty hard to find now, so we're lucky to have you reading the story. We might have
It's a
trouble finding it otherwise.
little harder to find, so I should probably get it out there. But what was fun about if you can find a copy of the book is that it has each story kind of has the a kind of an illustrated picture that it kind of is set with. And so that's just really cool, right? So like the old, maybe some of the listeners will recognize, but like Chesley Bonestell, if you ever remember some of that art from the old NASA days, that was what I grabbed it from. You remember all those like Dart-like spaceships and like landing on the other, right? It's that kind of stuff. And so there's a really gorgeous Chesley Bonestell painting of Io from back in the day that I think was like something NASA put together. And so that's the one I chose. And then tried to figure out like, what I was going to do with it. And, you get to read, sit down and read about Io and whatnot, and just kind of started to like pull some of these visual pieces together that I wanted. And then finally, when I was working and playing around with the title, I was just sort of like, oh my gosh, IO Robot. How can I not then use the Asimovian, 3 laws to like, play with this somehow? And the idea of like that, a robot just seeing them as spare parts because like too much change and cyber stuff has happened, just worked really fun as just a crisp little tragedy. They land, they put up an emergency beacon, and this robot shows up that's just kind of like, great, spare parts, let's do it.
It was sad.
Sam's such a sweet character. He's out there snapping those photos, right?
For the humans.
Yeah.
But it's all a
Yeah.
question of who you recognize as a human, which,
Exactly.
is still pretty timely.
It really is. It really is.
Wish it weren't.
Yeah. Sam's doing his best, but yeah, they didn't give him good operating instructions. He
Well,
should have
he
been
has
helping his fellow
limits,
robots.
right? I guess when you've got just 3 rules, you're missing something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you for having me on to read it. It's I was having problems with my mouse as I was reading it because I've adopted a new well, I'll show you. You'll love this. You're all sci-fi people. This is my these are my this is
Oh,
my my keyboard. It's an open source 3D printed hobbyist keyboard based on the data hand. So you kind of almost put your hands into it like a glove. It's fantastic for helping with like carpal tunnel damage.
oh, sorry
And
to hear you have that.
oh, this is just me trying to make sure I don't have that anymore. So this keyboard is completely taken care of that
That's
and heals
awesome.
a lot of the damage. But as you can see, it's got integrated trackballs. And I'm still kind of playing around with the sensitivity of the scrolling trackball that's on the left here. And every time I hold it up, I disconnect it. But so like as I was like scrolling the story, it kept like jumping forward 2 pages instead of half a page. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm trying to remember what I just saw and read it while I'm trying to find the spot scrolling.
It's quite all right. But it was cool to see that your extra robot hands.
Yeah, I've wanted a data hand for like 25 years, but they're so expensive. But now that this whole hobbyist 3D printing community is happening online, I was able to get a good deal on this one, and I can print out any of the parts I want on my 3D printer. So there's a lot of like fiddling.
And you can play with the firmware too, right?
There's a lot of cool stuff I can do
Yeah.
with the firmware. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Q&K has a
I
lot.
will have to stop. I give a whole 1 hour presentation about like alternative keyboard layouts, alternative keyboard input systems. It's something I'm like mildly obsessed with.
I like them a lot too. So I was glad to see that. Thank you. And the little blips are never a problem. It's funny because guests are often very apologetic about it when it happens, and it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I look at the audience, and people are never like, that person screwed up our word. They're just like, okay, story, more story.
I think for me, it comes out of the fact that I was dyslexic as a kid. So like, it's just
Oh.
one of those things where like I have like this huge, like weird pressure to like nail it just out of like an oppositional defiant disorder type thing. So whenever I like swap things around or get lost in the text or whatever, like I get really frustrated.
It is frustrating, I get that. But people here will not judge you harshly by it. And we all enjoyed the story, as we enjoyed A.T. Greenblatt's story too.
It's a fun evening of fiction.
Very much so. Very much so. And every evening is completely different. Next week is going to be definitely all spooky. We have,
nice.
Yes, our readers are going to be Douglas Gwillem and Jocelyn Sapaniak Gillies.
Okay.
Darn it, you coached me, Jocelyn. It took me a few tries, sorry. It's a good idea to check storyhour2020.com the day of. That's where we have announcements. You can also follow us on Blue Sky for that. And story2020.com also has a little calendar that can show you when the next story hour is. It's usually just next week. And who'll be reading, just look and see which Wednesdays you really have to make sure that you can mark off. But if you can't, or if you just want to, go back, we have 6 years worth links.
Nice.
Links there. We have them also at our YouTube channel, which is Story Hour 2020. And you can just go back and dive into the stories, look around, watch this one a few more times to your heart's content. Many, many stories. Well, Tobias Buckell, A.T. Greenblatt, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us tonight.
Thanks so much for having us. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I hope you will both come back.
Thank you.
Thank you also to SIFWA for the Givers Fund grant that helps us keep this virtual campfire burning. And thank you to Daniel Marcus, who is going to be so bummed that he missed tonight, but he'll watch the replay. But without Daniel, none of us would be here. This Zoom would just be some sad, empty place, if it even were a place at all. And thank you, all of you here in the Zoom now, on YouTube now, and all of you watching at some point in the future, because no matter where you are and when you're watching, as long as we all enjoy these same stories, we're all together here in the same story hour. Good night.